The sky was clear when Flight 237 left the tarmac, slicing through golden morning light. Passengers relaxed, oblivious to what awaited them. An elderly man read his newspaper, a child giggled over a coloring book, and flight attendants moved with routine grace. Turbulence was forecasted, but nothing out of the ordinary. Until the clouds turned black. Without warning, the aircraft jolted violently. Lights flickered. Luggage crashed from the overhead bins. Oxygen masks dangled. A violent storm had appeared out of nowhere, swirling like a monstrous vortex. Lightning cracked inches from the wing, and a sickening screech filled the cabin. Screams rose as the plane spiraled down into chaos. Then, darkness. Hours later, silence. Twisted metal lay scattered across a dense jungle floor. Smoke hissed from the broken fuselage, rising into the canopy like a warning signal. A few survivors pulled themselves from the wreckage, bloodied, bruised, and trembling. There were no emergency signals, no sounds of rescue. Only trees, thick, endless trees, and the oppressive weight of stillness. By noon, they'd gathered what little they could. A compass, a flare gun, some salvaged food. But the compass spun uselessly, the needle twitching like it too sensed something unnatural. Birds didn't chirp. Insects didn't buzz. The jungle was unnaturally quiet. It was as if the world was holding its breath. By nightfall, a fire crackled beneath the wing shell they used as shelter. Shadows stretched long across the dirt. One of the survivors, a young woman named Carla, swore she saw movement just beyond the tree-line. A shape, tall, wrong, watching. No one believed her. But when the scream came, they all heard it. It started low, almost human. Then it climbed into something primal, agonizing, echoing through the trees like it came from the throat of the jungle itself. Branches cracked in the darkness. Something was out there. No animals. No wind. Just that scream. And the growing realization. They weren't alone. Dawn broke through the canopy in fractured light, casting long streaks over the smoldering ruins of Flight 237. The survivors, 8 now, moved cautiously, their faces hollow with fear and fatigue. The jungle had closed in overnight, its vines almost seeming to creep closer. And no one spoke of the scream they heard. The group split into teams, hoping to find fresh water or maybe a path out. Carla, now leading by instinct more than reason, stayed near the wreckage. But others ventured deeper. One of them, Danny, a mechanic, never came back. They searched for hours. Nothing. No blood. No trail. No sound. Only something else. Marks in the mud, hoof-like, but too large. Scratches high on tree trunks. A crude symbol carved into bark, a circle with jagged lines bursting from its core. Not something nature made. Something deliberate. The air felt heavier that afternoon. As if the jungle itself had become a living thing, breathing around them. Trees groaned in the windless heat, and shadows moved where there was no sun. That evening, Carla found a piece of Danny's torn shirt snagged in a bush. Beneath it, a pile of stones shaped like a totem. At its center, an animal skull. Freshly placed. Flies still buzzed. She didn't tell the others. When night came, they built a larger fire, but the darkness beyond its glow seemed darker than before. The forest didn't just surround them, it watched. A second scream echoed. Higher pitched. Shorter. More desperate. Then came footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. Crunching leaves. Snapping twigs. One of the survivors, Miguel, shouted into the trees. "Who's out there?" No response. Only a whisper on the wind, a language no one understood, yet somehow felt ancient. That night, no one slept. By morning, there were only 7. And in the dirt, where their missing friend once lay, were 3 perfectly aligned claw marks, cut deep into the earth. Not natural. Not human. Something had claimed the jungle. And now, it had noticed them. The 7th day brought more than just exhaustion, it brought hopelessness. The group was shrinking, and the jungle was closing in. Food was nearly gone. The radio emitted only static. And when they tried retracing their steps, every path led them back to the wreck. Something was wrong with this place. Wrong in ways no map could explain. Carla's dreams were no longer her own. Visions of fire. Of eyes in the trees. Of something old and furious, waiting in the shadows. She awoke each night with dirt under her fingernails and the taste of blood in her mouth. On the 8th morning, they found an opening, a path choked by vines, almost hidden. It hadn't been there before. Or had it? Driven by desperation, they followed it for hours. The trees seemed to whisper as they passed, leaves rustling without wind. Then, silence. They stepped into a clearing and froze. There it stood, a village, long abandoned. Crumbled huts swallowed by moss. Bones half buried in the soil. Totems carved with those same unsettling symbols. One hut still stood. Inside, they found rotting journals, brittle and water-damaged, written in 2 languages, one broken English, the other indecipherable. The translated parts chilled Carla to the core. We worship the shadow to survive, but it does not sleep. It takes the broken first. Then the guilty. A survivor named Layla began to cry. She recognized the drawing in the corner of one page, an old airline logo from the 1950s. This had happened before. Suddenly, the air shifted. A low humming filled their ears, painful and penetrating. From the trees came a sound like deep breathing, followed by the dragging of something heavy across the forest floor. That night, they didn't return to the wreckage. They stayed near the village, surrounded by the past. But the past didn't protect them. Just after midnight, someone began chanting in the darkness. It wasn't one of them. When the firelight flickered, Layla was gone. In her place, a single torn page from the journal, pinned to the dirt with a jagged bone. It has chosen again. The faint glow slipping through the cracked coffin lid was a promise, a fragile thread connecting him back to the world above. His fingers trembling, he pushed with everything left in him, until the wood creaked and shifted beneath the relentless pressure of the earth. Outside, the muffled sound of digging echoed faintly, a desperate chorus of hope. He screamed again, raw and ragged, his voice swallowed by the layers of dirt. But this time, the sounds above grew louder, thudding footsteps, frantic voices, the scrape of tools against soil. They were coming for him. The air grew fresher, filling his lungs with cold relief. His body ached, muscles cramped from the confined space, but adrenaline surged, lending him strength to keep pushing. The lid shifted more, dirt falling away in small clumps, revealing slivers of starry night sky. A hand reached down, rough, calloused, trembling with urgency. Fingers grasped the edge of the coffin, prying it open wider. The light flooded in, burning away the darkness that had imprisoned him. The moment the lid finally gave way, his body was lifted, pulled from the suffocating earth. Fresh air filled his lungs with a violent gasp, tears streaming down his face as sunlight warmed his skin. Around him, faces blurred with concern and disbelief. He was alive, pulled from death's clutches by the courage of strangers. But even as relief washed over him, a chilling thought lingered. How close had he come to being lost forever beneath the earth? The nightmare had ended, but its shadow would never fully fade. As paramedics surrounded him, checking for injuries, his mind raced. Who had done this? Why? The questions burned hotter than any wound. One thing was certain, he had escaped death itself, but the story was far from over. The night he woke in a coffin would haunt him forever, a brutal reminder of how thin the line between life and death truly is. The jungle was quieter now, but not in peace. In dread. For survivors had become two by dawn. Miguel vanished first, snatched in the gray hours before sunrise. No scream. No struggle. Just silence and a trail of blood leading into the undergrowth. Alex went mad by noon, whispering to himself and walking into the trees as if answering a call only he could hear. That left Carla and Jonah. They hadn't spoken in hours. What was there to say? They were being hunted. Not by something of flesh, but something older. Something that fed not on bodies, but on fear, isolation, and guilt. The symbols. The chants. The markings on the trees. It all connected. This wasn't just a jungle, it was a trap, a place where the land itself bent to the will of a hungry god. Carla held the journal they'd recovered from the ruined village. Pages described a final ritual, one used by ancient tribes to appease the shadow. Blood was required. Willingly given. It had to be offered, not spilled. Jonah refused. Called it insanity. Said there had to be another way. So Carla made a choice. She waited until Jonah slept. Then she took the knife. She carved the symbol into her palm, dripping blood onto the altar stone by the collapsed idol. The ground trembled. The air grew cold. She whispered the words written in the journal's final passage. Not my body, but my soul. Take it and spare the others. But the shadow didn't want just her soul. It wanted everything. She woke up on the jungle floor, alone. The fire was out. The air, still. The wreckage, gone. Then, headlights. Voices. Rescue. A team of searchers surrounded her, offering blankets, water, questions. But Carla didn't answer. She just stared into the trees behind them. Because she knew. They weren't rescuing her. They were bringing it back. 3 weeks later, the rescue team uploaded footage from the site. Twisted trees. No wreckage. No bodies. Just Carla, sitting perfectly still. And a message carved into a tree behind her, written in a language no one could translate. Except Carla. She translated it every night now. Don't let it follow you home.